It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.
Behind every classroom Zoom call, every digital examination, and every EdTech app, invisible hands are making it possible. Innovators are continually building and putting structures in place to ensure every aspect of education is digitized. This leads us to the big question. Are they being recognized as the backbones of digital education in Nigeria? Welcome to EdTech Mondays Nigeria, your platform that facilitates critical conversations on the use of technology for teaching and learning. I'm your host, Chinyelu Akpa, and it's great to be here again. On today's episode, we go behind the scenes of Nigeria's education value chain. We'll be spotlighting ICT players and support services, the ones who keep the digital systems running, from building learning platforms to being adopted into the educational systems. Their role is critical. To help us unpack this conversation this week, we have dynamic guests who sit at different points of supporting services and ICT infrastructure in the education value chain. Our first guest is the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of Exam Scholars, a pioneering EdTech platform transforming how students across Africa prepare for examinations. With a deep passion for technology and education, he leads the company's innovation and product development efforts, ensuring that Exam Scholars delivers intuitive, scalable, and impactful learning solutions. Under his leadership, Exam Scholars has grown into a trusted platform that empowers learners with tools, analytics, and personalized study experiences. Join me as I welcome Ikenna Mbanus, the CTO and co-founder of Exam Scholars. Hello, Ikenna. It's good to have you here.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Our next guest is a results-driven CEO with 30 plus years of experience in information technology and business leadership, with a proven expertise in negotiation, business planning, management, and marketing strategy. She has a strong track record of driving business growth and leveraging data-driven insights. With experience at Panasonic and British Telecommunications, she brings a global perspective to her work. As a past president of Zonta International and a fellow of the Institute of Information Management, she is committed to advancing the field of information management. Join me today as I welcome Aderonke Adeyegbe, who is the GMD of Commercial Limited. Welcome, Aderonke. It's good to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great. So we have, as I said, two dynamic individuals who are doing great work in pushing information technology and laying the structures, the backbones that people do not really talk about. As I said in the introductory statements, oftentimes you see that a solution is working. You see that you go to a classroom or you go to an ICT lab in a school or in an institution and you have computers there. But nobody's asking, how did it come in here? Nobody's asking, how were the products built? So that is why we have brought you. And we believe that the ICT service providers, the innovators, are a very fundamental part of, or a very fundamental linkage in our education value chain in this century. You can't be thinking about education in 2025 and not think about the role of ICT innovators or providers like you both. So, my first question, what specific roles do ICT providers, support services, and infrastructure players play in strengthening Nigeria's education value chain. We are oftentimes glossing over the other linkages when we think about the value chain. That is so easy to forget about the ICT providers, the innovators, support services. So right now, how valuable are you in Nigeria's education value chain? I'll start with you, Mr. Aderonke.
Thank you very much for inviting me to join this conversation. It's great to be here to talk about how technology transforms the education ecosystem in Nigeria. We're all aware that education is the backbone for national development, not only in Nigeria, but across the world. And in the era of artificial intelligence, ubiquitous technology, cybersecurity, you find that technology has taken center place more because it is used without geographies. We can now use technology across geographies without boundaries. Mm-hmm. You find that virtual learning is taking root across the world, and Nigeria, with no exception, is doing quite well in that space. And like you said, technology is that invisible link that does all the work, and nobody really sees it. That's why it's called ubiquitous, because no one sees technology, but it is the link that does all the hard work behind the scenes. You asked the question about, for me, it's the internet, and I'll go down, much later to talk about it in depth. But providing internet is the crucial aspect that ICT players bring into the space, to improve education. And of course, affordable internet, not just internet, affordable internet. We have remote areas where I believe, government and other policymakers should be looking at more critically to ensure that internet is, provided in an affordable manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ronke. Over to you, Mr. Ikenna. What specific roles or how important is ICT as a linkage in Nigeria's education value chain? And from your point of view as an innovator, it will be interesting to see how you spin this off.
Yeah, thank you once again for having me. You talked about the roles of the ICT providers, the support services, the infrastructure. So that's three broad, very important key components of the whole value chain. And so I'll start with the providers, right? And for example, is exam scholars. So if you look at how students prepare for their exams or how students learn in general, you can see that the technology has brought in a new shift and a new efficiency in the way they prepare. So take any exam now, for instance, a student preparing for JAM, for example. You've done all the work, you've studied for the exam, you've been learning from the SS1 to SS3, and it's now time for exams. And when it's time for exam, what you do is to practice, right? And when you practice, you have to test your level of preparedness. And that is where many students will normally use the past questions to try to test their preparedness. But when you buy past questions manually and try to do it yourself, try to test yourself and maybe put a timer and put a stopwatch and test yourself, it does a lot for you. It does a lot to help you improve, and it does a lot to help you get ready for that exam. But imagine when these things are compressed into that small device in your phone or that desktop in your pocket, or that desktop computer or laptop computer in your room. Imagine the scale of things that can happen, and it takes away the manual process, but it gives you that opportunity to just focus on writing the exam, trying to practice the exam. The timer is there working on its own. The moment you are done trying to practice yourself, you get a very rich analysis showing you step by step the amount of time you spent on each question, the topics on each question, the topics you got right, the ones you failed, the areas you need improvement on. So this analysis will actually help tell you the level of readiness you are for that exam. That's a very big difference to what the old way of doing things can give you. So imagine you have exam in 2 months' time, and a system was able to tell you that out of 50 topics that you are supposed to cover, you are okay in 30 of them. Now you know that the other 20 is what you need to focus on and try to improve your readiness on that. And apps like Exam Scholars will not just give you that, it will not just tell you that this is the ones you are ready. It will actually give you your level of readiness for the entire exam and can actually, to a good level, predict your score, right? So if these things are available to students, if these things are available to learners, it not only improves your exam outscore, your exam final score, it actually helps you to learn, because when you see that you're not doing well in this aspect, it gives you the opportunity to go back, read more, practice more, and then come back and try again. So that is on the ICT side. If you go to the support services, there are a lot of tools, even though platforms like us try to make it as simple as possible, as with very limited knowledge on technology. Anybody can operate the app, but there are still tools or solutions that you need that extra support, that extra help, that extra guidance to do. And that is where the support services come in. The teachers are there. And again, if we are to talk about the teachers, that's another whole topic on its own. But they are there to actually provide that support to help the students bridge the gap between analog and then digital. So the infrastructure is what we all know, right? The internet, the service providers, even the local connectivity, right? So every aspect of this, if you don't have internet, you cannot download a particular app. If you're not able to download a particular app, you're not able to take advantage of the digital service that it provides. So that's their roles in a nutshell. I can expand more, but I believe we have to manage time.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Ikenna. It's very robust explanation, because what you have done is woven a very interesting story on how the learning systems would improve or have improved because of technology. We are hearing, or we are seeing more that schools and learners across different demographics have better systems of learning, of receiving feedback, and just trying out new things. So now, moving on from this, how do these ICT support services collaborate with other key actors in the education ecosystem to strengthen the education value chain? How have you, as the ICT professionals, as the ICT providers, how do you collaborate with the other players? And I'll give you some of the people that we've identified, as key parts of Nigeria's education value chain. We've talked about, in previous episodes, the curriculum developers. We've talked about the innovators. We've talked about the teachers. We've talked about, the role of academia, from the professors and all of that. We spoke about, even NGOs, CSOs, community-based organizations, funders, and the government. So now, when you think about this more holistically, where is the sweet spot where you lie in bringing everybody together to ensure that education in Nigeria is robust and valuable and can meet every learner where they are? Over to you, Mr. Aderonke. So, how do you collaborate with other key actors to improve education?
From my own personal experience, I belong to two major industry associations, and one of them, is made up of companies that are service providers. And these service providers work together with government regulatory agencies. There should be an alignment, to my mind. It's already happening, but it could be a lot better, between the initiatives in the private sector and the national broadband policies. There's a gap there, there's getting better, but if we improve on the gap between the national broadband policies and the private sector players, then we'll find that we're more able to provide better results. That, to me, is really very fundamental.
So, from what I hear you say is synchronizing or synergizing, rather, between what is being done individually in the education value chain or in the education ecosystem generally with what Nigeria's broadband policies are. Do you want to expatiate a little more?
Because you have individual players, as you mentioned, you've got innovators, you've got the student communities and the teachers, the academic community, all working hard to ensure that technology really delivers to students. But we all know that without the right policies from government, without the right governance structure in place, it will be difficult for players who are, service providers to provide affordable internet to many of these players. And that's why I think, to my mind, that, utmost importance is that we have an alignment between the players in the industry and the national broadband policy that is currently being used.
So would you say this is a case where, for this national broadband policy, players like you are brokering cheaper rates for connectivity that can now be used with people like, Mr. Ikenna at Exam Scholars, and bundling it over to them and saying, if you want a learner who wants to use Exam Scholars to prepare for an examination, you're going to be using it with Exam Scholars at a cheaper rate. So what exactly would that collaboration look like? Is it as I said, brokering better rates for educational services, or is it a case of zero rating educational services? What exactly would that support that would help education thrive?
Because we've said earlier that technology is the backbone, the invisible engine that knots the ecosystem together, it's important to have accessible, affordable internet. And you find that the private sector players are working alone without government support. So maybe we should be looking at a public-private partnership. Maybe that would bring more clarity into the conversation, to say that maybe we should have shared hubs, community hubs. So government is playing a part and the private sector players are also playing their part. I'm really speaking to affordable, accessible internet.
So I'll move on to you, Mr. Ikenna, with this question. What are some of the key challenges that players like you face in working with government bodies to support education? And I'm saying this because it's piggybacking from what you have said. Maybe you have broadband policies that sometimes feel very abstract to an innovator like you, or exist but cannot be even put into practice. So what are some of the challenges that you face, and some of the ways that you think that we can circumvent these challenges, or we can solve around the challenges and ensure that ICT technology provision for education in Nigeria is accessible, affordable, and can help us move the needle on qualitative education in Nigeria?
So we can say number one is internet. Number two is affordable internet, right? There are quite a number of them, but we are not folding our hands and waiting for government to do everything, or waiting for that moment when all the pieces are aligned, right? What we did was to make our app, give our app the ability to work offline, and give the most part of its core features to work offline, so that every student, with or without internet access, once you've downloaded the app on your phone, can still practice with it and still prepare and get as much of value as you can get. But you know that a lot of things can be achieved online. And again, the government sometimes, in terms of challenges, are not as easily accessible as it should be. In a system like this, an email to a government agency should get a response, and a lot of things can happen from there. In terms of policy, I think there are a lot of policies already, and if we follow them, and if they are followed as they have been proposed, the problems will be lighter on the people. However, a lot of the problems actually is more on the purchasing power of the citizens. That's a big chunk of that problem. You don't expect government to give handouts every now and then, but you expect the government to have an economy, to provide an economy where people can actually afford basic things, because education is very basic. It's actually one of the basic necessities of man. So if the citizens can actually acquire and purchase education materials, applications, softwares that can actually help deepen their knowledge in the system, it will go a long way. right? So when we talk about challenges, they are not always things you can see, but they are things that they have tremendous impact in terms of how they affect the daily challenges of everybody. The internet access, like I said before, is one huge problem, right? Because the percentage of penetration of internet in Nigeria is about one of the lowest across the world, right? And this is something you cannot do on your own. Not many parents, not many people can actually afford Starlink internet, which is the only one that you can actually get from the satellite. The rest, there has to be local connectivity, local internet interconnection before it gets to you. So these are just the challenges the government has to look into.
Okay, so I see you. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, it's fantastic what you've said, Mr. Ikenna, because if you want to take a look at satellite, for example, as an option, even that is more expensive. Rural connectivity is becoming very interesting. Lots of talk around rural connectivity, but how are we going to get it done if there's no partnership between the public sector and the private sector? It's interesting that Project Bridge is about taking off. The industry is very excited about the possibilities of crashing the prices. If there are more players, it's highly likely that there'll be competition, and that one person becoming a monopoly and dictating the price, will not take place. So let's hope that Project Bridge brings a lot of solutions to this space.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And this is, I believe that what we have done now is unnetted, a very burden challenge when it comes to ICT services for education in Nigeria, because no matter how innovative, how intuitive your solution is, it still lies on the bedrock of the strength of your internet connectivity or the affordability of your internet connection. So if it is not present at all, or if it is present and it is not affordable, then we still are disenfranchising a lot of learners within Nigeria. And if we've established anything in Nigeria through EdTech Mondays, is that we cannot continue building schools. We need to leverage on the power of technology to push education in Nigeria. And one way this is going to happen is if we have the strong systems. There's so much work that the Ministry of Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy is doing with rural connectivity, but it's just one of many that needs to happen. So maybe I'll go back to what you have said, Mr. Aderonke, and say that a lot more conversation needs to be happening between the private sector operators and the public sector, representatives. So we need to have more people like you, and more people like you as well, Mr. Ikenna, who would tell the government what the problems are, or build a think tank where we're saying, these are what we've experienced in the field. So I think I would come back to you and ask, do you have think tanks? Do you have avenues where you're meeting with the government, you're meeting with the key players in education to help them design ways that that technology can be more accessible and affordable in Nigeria? And what is your projection for information technology supporting education in Nigeria in the next coming years?
Like I did mention earlier, I'm a member of the Association of Telecommunication Companies of Nigeria, and this is a body of all the ISPs. And right now, I see that there's more excitement. The minister declared Project Bridge launch anytime soon. So there's a lot of ongoing preparations for ISPs to position themselves, not only from the financial point of view, but that acquiring hardware, servers and others you need to deploy your network take time. So it's important that conversations start very quickly in procuring this hardware that is necessary for network infrastructure. That's already going on. I also belong to another body, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and they do have an ICT sectoral group. And, they're powerful in terms of advocacy. So there's a lot going on there as well. What I see that's quite exciting in this administration is the fact that there's a meeting of minds. The minister has called the industry players from time to time to get the feedback from them, to feel the pulse of where the pain really lies for players. And I think he's responding. That's why Project Bridge is so crucial to the next phase for technology development in Nigeria. And I'd like to say at this point that Nigeria is setting the pace for Africa, without a doubt, in terms of broadband penetration, in terms of development of cable, undersea cables. Nigeria is doing very well. I know that the data center explosion is also happening. Because with the excitement about artificial intelligence, we need data centers. At the moment, I think it's about 50 megawatts, in terms of the capacity of data centers in Nigeria. For us to have a successful digital economy, we need about 600 megawatts. So this explosion that's happening now is well needed. And I know that the next 5 years, Nigeria will be a different place, if all goes on as seen. Thank you.
Thank you. And over to you now, Mr. Ikenna. Your parting words?
I would say one other important thing that can get missed in the whole thing is sensitization, right? And that's one big responsibility I think the government should pay attention to. WAEC has just announced that for 2026, exam will be CBT. And the bulk of the schools where we have the biggest number of students is in the public schools, which are the government schools. And that is also where you find the lower class of Nigerians whose children are there. A lot of them have no computers. A lot of them have never seen a computer before. So it's not like a lot of them have not really used a computer or not conversant with computer. So if they are going to write an exam with a computer, the anxiety alone can actually make anyone forget what he or she has read before the exam day, right? So if enough sensitization, at least a mock practice is set up for them prior to this exam. There is time. They have at least 5 to 6 months before then. So if something is done between now and then to actually help them ease the stress of the exam day, it will actually go a long way. But beyond that, we keep doing what we are doing. Our app is mostly offline, which will allow anybody to practice. Teachers can actually conduct mock examinations multiple times for free using our own application to actually train their students and get them ready for the exam. So with all this, I believe that the future is looking good. Everybody is looking better, and we are actually also exploring ways to go into other countries. Other countries are around us. So I say a lot is happening, a lot is going on, but we need more. Thank you very much.
If you're a learner, if you're a teacher, if you're an informed guardian parent in Nigeria, and you haven't started using exam scholars as a tool to support your learner to prepare for any exam in Nigeria, you're doing your child and your ward a huge disservice, because what they have built is an intuitive solution that uses technology to support your learners. They are taking exams, they are taking quizzes, they are taking questions, and the app has been refined to support them. The more answers that they pass, the more the app can tell them what their speed would be, how well they will do in the main examination, and boost their confidence, down the line. So please, if you're a parent, you're a student, you're a teacher, hurry now. Exam Scholars is on Play Store. Please download and use it to support yourself, support your teachers, support your ward, support your learners, for all upcoming examinations. Thank you so much. Can Nigeria really build the backbone strong enough to carry the future of digital learning? Would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts about this? And what are your thoughts about Nigeria's education value chain? What linkage do you think we omitted? Or what linkage do you think is the strongest and most responsible for providing quality education in Nigeria? Would love to hear from you. Send us an SMS or a WhatsApp message on any of these numbers. The first number, 0703 165 0809. The second number is 0706 402 0742. We would love to hear from you. Which of the linkages is the strongest in Nigeria's education value chain? Who do you think we should hold the most to ensure that education in Nigeria is qualitative, and that no learner is left behind. Remember, if you know anyone who missed this episode or you want to catch up on the conversations we had this month of October on all the very important linkages in Nigeria's education value chain, do not worry, we have you covered. Hurry now to Spotify, EdTech Mondays Nigeria, or YouTube at CC Hub Nigeria to listen again and just give us your feedback. We also have a very active WhatsApp and Telegram community, EdTech Mondays Nigeria. The conversation continues there. And who knows, you might be our next guest on the next episode of EdTech Mondays. Until I come your way, same time, same station, I remain your host, Chinyelu Akpa. Keep using technology to push the barriers on education. Is bye for now.
It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.